Hello, and welcome to a new video. Things have not been very good for our friend Alex Jones as of late. If you aren't caught up with what's going on in the world of the loony, this guy has been kicked off quite a few platforms. His YouTube channel was taken down. His Spotify channel was taken down. He tried setting up accounts on other websites and was taken down. And those absolute bullies, those parents of the victims of the Sandy Hook shootings, are suing Alex Jones for defamation because he called them all a bunch of crisis actors. You know, all those parents who are grieving, worrying, crying, just absolutely hysterical over the death or possibility of death of their children. Not a good day at all, and I'm gonna kick him while he's down. Even though he's been given the boot, a few people have uploaded some of his videos onto YouTube. It's a bit difficult to find videos specifically about transhumanism and related topics, but I've managed to find 2 short clips, and I will have an additional longer video of other nuttery he believes in. I've already responded to more liberal sources, so I think it's time to swing the pendulum the other way and knock Alex Jones back on his ass. Let's begin.
And I'll just say it again, the God of this universe, he's not going to stand up for you either. He's just going to say, hey, listen, I don't know who you are. You don't resonate with what I'm about. Go be with other people like yourself. Let your spirit, let your energy, let your soul go be with other people like you. That place has a name interdimensionally. You could use a Superman-esque thing, the Phantom Zone. That's where you people get to go. But see, they tell the general public, oh, there's no such thing as God or the devil. But then you study globalists, they themselves are seriously occultic to a man, to a woman, and they believe they serve the God of this world, who is the real Christ, who is going to deliver them with technology and make them live forever with heaven on earth.
You're probably wondering, who are these global elites who would publicly say that there is no God, but then privately declare that there is a God and worship him and think that the God will give them life-extending technology? Well, he doesn't like to name names, so we'll never know who specifically. But it is kind of odd considering how, as far as global elites go in politics, there's not exactly a lot of open atheists. There's not exactly a lot of publicly there is no God and religion is a lie. In fact, it's more likely that a number of politicians, especially in the US, are privately atheists and publicly theists. And it's worth pointing out the ridiculousness of the idea that they think that this God will give them life-extending technology, because Alex Jones believes that the global elite are transhumanists. The transhumanists in Google, in Apple, in Microsoft, these are all tech companies, and while a few of them are actually investing in life extension technology, that's pretty fucking different than believing a God will give it to you. It's not exactly asking a deity for it if you're just throwing money at a bunch of scientists and hoping they're able to figure out how to get people to live longer. That's called just working, Alex Jones, not worshipping or believing.
They are a whacked out eugenics, proto-Nazi, neo-eugenics.
You already said eugenics once, you ignorant potato.
Death cult.
Alex Jones, this might come as a surprise to you, but death cults tend not to have the goal to live longer. If they're making life extension technology, they aren't interested in dying.
And they have White House run publications, make jokes about that when I come out and I say the UN's a space cult.
Where did we go so wrong when we went from that to the president watching his show and appearing on it? Boy, in just a single election, things have gone to such shit.
Well, my full quote was Ian Fleming Moonraker cult.
See, it wasn't this stupid thing you were thinking of. It was this other stupid thing.
I mean, Heaven's Gate Hail Bop cult put on their Nike tennis shoes, took the barbiturates, drank their vodka, suited up to send their spirits up to join the flying saucer, and they all had chopped their genitals off because the space aliens wanted those chopped off in their fruitcake land. And then I look at what the UN and the globalists push. It's basically the same thing.
Literally at no point has the UN ever endorsed cutting off your genitalia, killing yourself by drinking Kool-Aid laced with barbiturates, and then hoping that your soul will drift off into an alien spaceship. I'm not sure if I really do need to say this or not, but apparently he's pushing this completely madman notion. And of course he has no proof. There's no internal documents from the UN saying as much. There certainly isn't any public pushing of that idea from them.
We're all going to drink Kool-Aid and then go to the mothership. We're going to join with the world government and then we're going to live forever. No, you're not. It's a giant deception. How do you get people to join with the devil?
Well, there's quite a few tactics to push propaganda onto the masses. One is to make incredibly ridiculous, far-fetched claims over and over and over again until that meme sticks and people start to actually believe it. That is one you should be very familiar with, Mr. Jones.
To join with death, to join with a God that wants to kill everybody on the earth.
Ironically, Alex Jones being a Christian, that's quite literally what he believes in. That's the God he worships. Revelations is indeed a part of the Bible, Mr. Jones. You can't just sweep that under the rug and hope that the vast majorities of believers who, quite frankly, didn't read their own holy book would take your word for it. Or you could, and seems to be working quite well for you now, isn't it?
To save the earth as you merge with machines and become gods. Do you think the elite are going to take this old woman, the head of the Planned Parenthood board, who's out haggling over bodies, drinking expensive wine, haggling over baby organs?
The majority of funding for Planned Parenthood is directed toward safe sex, contraceptives, lessons on avoiding STDs, information, that sort of stuff. A small fraction of it is dedicated to abortion, and that's just something that people like you have blown completely out of proportion for the sake of sensationalism. But if it really is all like abortion and haggling for baby organs, that, in your screwed up little world, would sound suspiciously similar to eugenics. So I would assume that, yeah, they would let her upgrade into a superior robot body. So much for drinking Kool-Aid and merging with motherships. Since she is, I don't know, like part of the global elite and their eugenics transhumanist conspiracy.
Getting sick looks in her eye when she talks about Lamborghinis. Do you really think the elite, her bosses, are going to give her access to the life extension fully? No. They're going to wipe you out.
But why are they not going to give her access to life extension, especially if she's so prolific and successful, in your uneducated opinion, at hacking up babies and doing these eugenics programs? And why am I or the common viewer being pitted in the same circle as his high-profile head of Planned Parenthood?
And by the way, to the actual controllers, in your gut, in your soul, in your spirit, do you really think the God of this world, the old serpent, the deceiver, the betrayer, is going to give you this power over the earth you think you're going to get? You're only given limited power to bring this thing in.
Why would they be asking for more power over the earth if they already control everything? You know, the globalists, the transhumanist elite who dictate all of society apparently have already achieved that in your own mad little world. So there's not exactly any more reason to beseech this god of the earth or the serpent or whatever you're trying to conflate it with.
And once you bring this in, you are going to be the most despised, hated people, and it says you're going to hide under the mountains and beg for death, but you won't be able to die. Because, see, you didn't want to die, did you? Did you?
If they didn't want to die, why would they beg for death?
Right here, the Genesis engine. Wired Magazine, special report. It's like 30 pages long. We now have the power to quickly and easily alter DNA. It could eliminate disease. It could solve world hunger. It could provide unlimited clean energy. It could really get out of hand.
Well, there's those damn global elitists and globalists and transhumanists hiding the truth of their evil plans by not only publishing it in the more popular tech magazines, but also dedicating part of it to a rundown of the potential dangers and faults and mishaps that could come from the technology. You know, because they don't want us to know.
By Amy Waxman. It needs to be specially controlled, the life extension.
Yes, Alex Jones. As it turns out, new medical technology is regulated heavily, tested thoroughly, and made sure that as little as possible can go wrong. This is a job of the FDA. They are there to ensure that mishaps, like say the children of thalidomide, don't occur again. If they decided, alright, we're just going to throw this out, anyone can use it at any time, we don't care, no regulation, it's all free and available to anyone, I can guarantee you that you'll be saying it's part of their plot to use all the humans as guinea pigs and then they'll get the good stuff. Because we'll all be the beta testers of this technology and then they'll know what to do and what not to do with it so they don't suffer anything. The globalists will not suffer anything. Like there's literally no winning in your deluded fucking fantasies.
And then what's deployed to the public will have Trojan horses in it and will not be the real grail. Because just as the elite are betrayed by their masters and their master, they do the same trick to those below them, and then that group betrays those below them as well. As above, so below. Follow your own rules, your own alchemy, and realize what you've done. You will not attain the next level of human development by trying to hold other people back.
Wouldn't it be significantly easier to hold people back by just not allowing anyone to have access to this technology ever? Like once this technology is perfected and the elite is indulging in it, they just say, oh no, the public masses, the common people, you're not allowed to have it, and that's that. Because what are the public going to do to the elite? That would even put a dent in their world-controlling plans. This really does break down when you give it a modicum of thought. It really does. You should try thinking, Alex Jones. It's quite riveting.
Universal galactic rule that cannot be controverted. That's written on my heart. I don't believe it. I know it.
And that's the first video. Probably should have put a warning or disclaimer at the start of the video because it is quite nutty. Some people might have severe allergies. No rest for the wicked globalist elite. On to the next one. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit to the point where he's actually talking about transhumanism and all that stuff. He starts out complaining about college campuses and their drive to put in like 60 quadrillion genders and all that stupid shit. Which, in retrospect, is a bit funny since we now know he watches tranny porn, but far be it from me to know that another one of these moral crusaders is a fucking hypocrite.
I made films showing where in the 60s they said they'd have 50 different sexes and depopulation and destroy the family. Hell, Huxley wrote in 1932 the whole plan. His brother was the global head eugenicist and the founder of transhumanism.
Oh look, Alex Jones knows the difference between Julian and Aldous Huxley. Good job, you get a gold star.
But they don't transhuman you to make you better. They trans you until you're dead.
The very cornerstone of transhumanism is using science and technology to improve upon humanity. It wouldn't be transhumanism if it ended up making you worse. It would be just a fuck up. But even in the context of like transsexualism and these 29,000 genders that you're trying to conflate it with, they don't make you dead either. That's not even the goal of those procedures, let alone the goal of actual transhumanism.
Go read his book. Brave New World Revisited Nonfiction. It's all written by them like you're so stupid you won't read it.
Brave New World is the second most well-known dystopian fiction, second only to 1984. And many schools have it as required reading. It's either on the curriculum during class or something you have to read over the summer. But quite a few people, quite a few kids, have to read it and understand the plot and themes and ideas in the book. It's not exactly something that the elite are trying to pull the wool over your head about. It's an open secret, if it's even a secret at all.
It's a plan. It's not my opinion. I am correct. That's why they hate me.
If I yell loud enough, my insanity will be correct.
They're a guild of sociopaths and psychopaths that think they own you and your family.
Can you point to me the Julian Huxley quote or bit of text from any of his works? Which, mind you, he is not Aldous Huxley, where he states that he owns you and your family. Hell, can you point to me any transhumanists in general who advocates of owning other people and their families?
They think you're too stupid when the vampire tells you he's coming in your house, you let him in. I didn't plug anything this hour, and I need funding in this war. I've got incredible products, free shipping right now.
Those transhumanists think they can use science and technology to improve upon the human condition? But it's lies, lies. It's all bullshit. Instead, buy my products, my health products, my male vitality pills, my assortment of essential oils and salts. It's guaranteed to work, sponsored by me, Alex Jones, and not the global elite. So unfortunately, not very long clips. It's quite difficult to find a clip that's actually about transhumanism in some way, but also not like an hour 30 minutes of bullshit to shift through. But I did find some other miscellaneous nuttery, and I would hope to go through it with you. This is Alex Jones' take on the evolution versus creation debate, which you can probably guess is going to be very well-reasoned, well-informed, data-backed view of our origin as a species. Let's begin.
A lady called at the end of the last hour saying, for those that just joined us, she said, Alex, you're friends with Jesse Ventura. You're consulting on his TV show. He's a guest on your show. He believes in evolution. What do you believe in? I don't believe in evolution the way it's billed and sold.
Billed and sold by the vast, overwhelming, indisputable majority of scientists in relevant fields, the ones who actually spend their lives studying it, the ones who dedicate their time and money and effort into figuring out how nature works, the ones who publish all of the materials and present all the data. Those guys are all liars, and he doesn't believe any of them.
And I don't believe in the 100-year version of creationism.
There is no 100-year version of creationism.
I am a Christian, but this is not a religious broadcast.
It's not that kind of stupid. It's this kind of stupid.
I believe in science.
Pause the video now if you want to laugh, because it doesn't get any better.
And there has been more fraud from the evolution camp. Remember the famous Piltdown man, the jaw of a pig?
Which was exposed by scientists who believe in evolution.
Found in the U.S., and they knowingly lied for 40-something years, saying it was the missing link.
Sensationalist publications tried to present it as a missing link, but actual paleontologists were skeptical. That's how the whole thing got debunked. It wasn't a valiant crusader for Christ who exposed the deep-seated plot of evolutionists to present this obvious hoax to the world. It was scientists. It was people in relevant fields. People who have much better fossils that actually do demonstrate the relationship between human beings and other modern-day primates from a common ancestor. The whole idea of a missing link is more or less creationist claptrap. The lineage, the history of our species is pretty damn well documented at this point. The reason this missing link meme keeps getting propagated is because creationists, who will never admit that they're wrong, refuse to look at the whole picture and just look at one fossil, another fossil, and say, oh, you didn't account for literally every single mutation and change and minute difference between them. So there's this missing link. I mean, here's a cheeky clip from Futurama making fun of exactly that.
If your elitist East Coast evolution is real, why has no one found the missing link between modern humans and ancient apes?
We did find it. It's called Homo erectus.
Then you have proven my case, sir. For no one has found the link between apes and this Homo erectus.
Yes, they have. It's called Homo habilis.
Aha! But no one has found the missing link between ape and the so-called Homo habilis.
Yes, they have. It's called Australopithecus africanus.
Ho-ho! I've got you now. Fair enough. But where, then, is the missing link between apes and this Darwinius macilli? Answer me that, Professor.
I sure hope my video isn't taken down because of that clip.
And there have been literally hundreds of frauds, more than that, uncountable, in and around evolution.
I won't name any other than the most well-known, most prolific fraud surrounding evolution, which again was debunked by actual scientists and not, say, creationists or intelligent design proponents, though I repeat myself, but I assure you there are.
And now top genetic engineers all over the world, there's famous cases of this, have stopped being atheists because they say, look, we've looked at the DNA, we've looked at supposed evolution, something else is happening here.
No geneticist worth their salt would be coming out and saying that evolution isn't true, especially when they have like the absolute best proof of evolution at their disposal, which is our DNA. The whole idea of life being a wonderful, intricate, intelligent design sort of falls apart when you examine our genetic code. A sizable portion of our code is viruses. A sizable portion of our code is stuff that is turned off. A sizable portion of our code is repeated code. We're kind of a fucking mess. We're a bit of a hodgepodge of various mutations and adaptations over the course of billions of years.
Species just appear instantly, literally overnight.
Name one. One new species overnight.
150 years ago, when Darwin was a big rock star and his theory, evolution of the species, was first put out, and he was a eugenicist. He was really the father of eugenics.
Eugenics as a practice has existed for thousands of years. A rather famous case in ancient history would be the Spartans, who would regularly examine their babies when they're first born for defects, and if they come out looking good, they're accepted into the society, and if they show evidence of any sort of weakness or defect, they're left on the roads in the hands of the gods, as they would believe. But even the modern day idea of eugenics wasn't started by Darwin. It was started by Francis Galton. We know you're able to read Wikipedia because you had the page for Huxley opened in a previous clip. So why did you not take a cursory glance of the eugenics article, which goes over exactly what I just stated?
They believe that the royals were a greater bloodline. They believe the general public were scum.
Like, right there. The idea that royals have special bloodlines and are above the common public is an idea that has existed hundreds, if not thousands of years before Darwin was even born.
They believed in social Darwinism, saying, so what if people die in factories? So what if the elite kill the poor? The poor are scum because they genetically didn't get rich and powerful.
Given how the Industrial Revolution also started before Darwin was born, I'm willing to bet that was a belief more or less held before he was born as well. And it's also worth pointing out that the use of genetic in this case is a sort of misleading, since genetics wasn't an understood science at the time of Darwin. You wouldn't see him advocating for genetic superiority of anyone because genetics wasn't known about.
Therefore, they believe everything is evolutionary, so you deserve to be poor. You deserve to be a slave.
Another incredibly pre-Darwinian belief that was exactly that is the Hindu caste system, where if you're poor or in poverty or have terrible luck in life, well, you deserve it because of something you've done in a previous life. Like, all of these ideas you're espousing have been around for about as long as humans have, about as long as civilization has. There's been people declaring themselves inherent superiors to all of the others. So I don't see why you're trying to specifically pin this on some person from the 19th century when it's as old as society itself. Well, I do see why. You have this silly worldview that 19th century intellectual powerhouses like Darwin, like the Huxleys, like Herbert Spencer, were the progenitors of transhumanism, and their descendants and their ideas are used by the global elite to control everyone. And also, you want to be a mad gadfly and say, no, I don't believe in one of the most well-founded theories in all of science. Because a hoax. There was a hoax. You just want to be edgy.
That this is part of evolution. So no, I reject all that. And it's part of this globalist religion. It's just another religion, and they admit that, and the UN now...
One of the most common falsehoods about evolution is that it's a religion, and anyone who understands evolution fights against that notion, would argue against it. So who's admitting it other than creationists trying to stir up lies about a scientific theory?
Says they're creating a global religion. They've been planning it for 30 years around Gaia worship.
More unsubstantiated claims about the UN. The funny thing is, the general consensus about the UN is that they're pretty fucking useless. For example, China has human rights violation after human rights violation, and nothing can be done about it from the UN's end, because China has like a significant position within the UN that would prevent them from being able to take an actual stand against China's violation of human rights. But to Alex Jones, they're this all-powerful, world-controlling, super conspiracy that just dictates absolutely everything, and they've somehow, for whatever reason, made public all of these different plans about how they're going to control the world, and the public just eats it up or ignores it or whatever. He has a really skewed view of who's in power.
Around teaching humans that they're bad so they'll give up their rights and their property, the globalist. Has nothing to do with the environment.
The cornerstone of Darwinian evolution is the environment.
And so I have people on this show, I work with people who I don't totally agree with. This isn't like a cult or something.
I will now provide you another opportunity to laugh hysterically, because again, it does not get better.
And so that's my answer there. It is a very complex, sophisticated issue, and the Darwinists decided to try to discredit Christianity by saying evolution discredited the Genesis story.
Evolution and creationism are fundamentally incompatible. In creationism, God creates all the organisms as is, and in a specific order that doesn't line up with how we understand life evolved on Earth. Meanwhile, in evolution, life is a process. There's no instantaneous birth of a new species, contrary to what Alex Jones seems to believe. So yes, if evolution is true, the Genesis story is indeed discredited. This is a view held even by people who both believe in Christianity and accept the validity of evolution.
How do I say what 6 days are? How do we say how the Creator makes the planet?
Well, you'd think in the most important book in all of human history that's either written by or inspired by God himself, he'd be pretty fucking clear about his times. He'd say, oh, you wrote day? No, it's millennia, it's millions of years, it's billions of years. But that's not the case. The only interpretation you can really have of it is either it's all literal, in which case it's wrong, or it's all sort of story, an allegory, a fable or whatever, that's meant to teach human beings a fundamental lesson about themselves. But just picking and choosing, oh, this is definitely completely literal, no reason not to believe it, and this is all a metaphor or wordplay, or there's a meaning that we're just not getting. It's just blatant cherry picking at its worst. Own your shit.
I believe in intelligent design.
So you're a creationist. could have saved us a lot of time if you just said that initially.
Okay? And so it's become a Christian religious tenet that the earth is only 6,000 years old when the Bible doesn't even really say that.
That was deciphered by someone examining the ages of biblical figures all the way back to Adam and Eve and figuring out how old they are, how old their parents are, how old their parents' are, and so on and so forth, and coming to the conclusion that the earth is only 6,000 years old because that's as long as the lineage goes down. You are right that the Bible doesn't explicitly say the world is 6,000 years old, but there is a reason that so many Christians believe that the world is 6,000 years old. Well, the reason that so many Christians initially came to that conclusion, I think the reason Christians today would believe that is simply because that's what they've been taught all their lives.
And it's all a distortion. And it's all a fake fight to make Christianity look stupid. And Christians take the bait, and they go out and then debate all day and say that Adam and Eve were riding dinosaurs and all this other stupid stuff. And but then the atheists themselves, they've got their own religion of if anybody that questions how the universe really works and thinks that there's more going on than we even perceive.
So, in other words, the atheist religion is just basic science. And there's no metaphysics or spiritual realm above it. There's only the natural, materialistic universe that we have come to understand a large part of. Didn't you earlier say you believe in science? Because right now you're kind of shit-talking it, saying it's literally a religion.
They really shut down the debate, and they're a group of tyrants. So I don't go off the Schofield Bible and their view of creationism. I don't go off their view of the rapture, which isn't in Revelations the way they say it is. Okay? You know, it says the beast will wage war on the saints and overcome them. How does he do that? They were all teleported up by Scotty.
Well, obviously, they direct their photon torpedoes at the beast and blow his ass up into a billion micro pieces.
I mean, this is ridiculous. Folks, it's so sophisticated. Okay? It's incredibly complex.
It would be significantly less complex if you didn't make up a bunch of ridiculous stories about the whole thing. Maybe follow actual history and not your attempts at making some Assassin's Creed-esque historical conspiracy by the 19th century British elite.
I mean, you really read Genesis, it's genetic engineering, and if you read Ezekiel...
Alright, so the world being 6,000 years old, which is something extrapolated from the ages of characters in the Bible, that's all bullshit. And the part where the Bible explicitly states that the creation process took days, that's not it either. But it's genetic engineering. He insists it's genetic engineering, even though that's most certainly not part of the Bible.
It's like reading science fiction, folks. I don't think a lot of you have actually read that Jewish history.
You'd be surprised how few Christians read their own books. I agree, though more like fantasy.
And that's what it is. It's what these people were interpreting, what they were seeing, and what was going on. It's pretty heavy stuff, actually. And what the Babylonians, I mean, have you read what they wrote? It's very similar. Have you read what the Egyptians were saying? There's a lot more going on. But see, I don't get into it because none of it can be confirmed or denied.
A significant amount of the stories in the Bible have been debunked by archaeological evidence. The stories aren't validated independently of the Bible. There's no accounts in Rome, for example, of prophets rising from the tombs and walking through the streets of Rome. There's no account in ancient Egypt of Jews being led out from their slavery by Moses, parting the Red Sea and all the plagues that God has rained down on them. That's pretty significant reason not to believe those stories. It's not history interpreted what they saw and what they think it was. It just didn't happen.
I got a good idea what's going on. And I believe in the Creator, and I love God. But this is not a religious show where everybody fights with each other and debates this or that.
Debate on an Alex Jones show? Absolutely not.
I just put the facts out that I can prove.
I will now give a third moment to laugh like an absolute maniac, simply because of how absolutely wrong that statement was.
And I can prove the insurance companies wrote the health care bill. I can prove that it's a scam and a new tax to the insurance companies and to the government and the banks that own the insurance companies. I can prove that the banker bailout was a engineered fraud to loot the public and give the Federal Reserve even more power. And it's on record. They've all gotten record bonuses. I can prove we're going into tyranny away from liberty. And I'm not here to divide people. I'm here to get people thinking on their own.
I notice he likes to talk about here some actual grounded claims that insurance companies have a huge sway over healthcare bills that essentially just turns it all into a scam in favor of the insurance companies, or how banks were the ones who profiteered from economic collapses while the common person had to foot the bill. Socialism for the 1% and the higher ups, and rugged individualism for you and me, that sort of stuff. He didn't say, yeah, I can prove it. The chemicals in our water are turning our frogs gay. Genetic engineers are making human-animal hybrids. He's not talking about any of the really nutty stuff. He's trying to sort of reel you in with this grounded, actual news that you can read independent of his wacky show in order to make you more welcoming to the more ridiculous claims he has. Conspiracy theories are often based on half-truths. It's no secret that governments can be incredibly corrupt and shitty. It's even less of a secret that businesses and corporations can be just as shitty. But when Alex Jones is talking about this stuff, he's going less with the well-founded stuff and more with the nutty stuff as much as he possibly can, while still just barely keeping his finger on reality.
And to start questioning the system. You know, it's not so much that the public is stupid as that the public is distracted by the news and entertainment and partying, and the world's a complex place, and the general public's been trained to just accept what's put in front of them instead of questioning. 9 times out of 10, what you're told about something in the mainstream media has no bearing on what's really going on. You know, the headline will say one thing, but then when you actually read the article, the facts are there. They're just spun.
Clickbait is a pretty well understood aspect of the media.
Or they lie by omission. I mean, it's complex. It takes my entire mental faculty to just be able to even understand it, much less be able to articulate it. And so I just invite you to start looking under the rocks, looking behind the curtain, thinking for yourself. But it has become a false debate. I'm not going to have Baptist preachers telling me their own interpretation of how the world was created from their own distortion. And I'm certainly not going to listen to the globalist and their whole evolutionary system. See,
well, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't have any of the global elites on your show. But I find it interesting that your dichotomy about this debate isn't a Baptist preacher and a scientist, or a Baptist preacher or a biologist, or even a Baptist preacher and a prolific atheist, but a Baptist preacher and the global elite. Since the overwhelming majority of scientists in all relevant fields understand and accept the validity of evolution, does that mean they're all part of the global elite? When can I get in on that? That'd be pretty fucking swell, having sway over the whole goddamn world. But no, that's all the false debate. I mean, it's not really a debate to begin with. Evolution is true, creationism is not. But that's all the false debate, and what's really going on is Alex Jones's unspecified beliefs that somehow mix together something to do with science and intelligent design.
I don't let people put me in a box. I look at the facts, I look at history, I look at the evidence.
He does so with one eye closed and the other squinting, but he looks.
And obviously, you're not going to have the Sahara Desert, as the old cliche goes, put together a fine Swiss watch. The sands aren't going to fly together to make that.
What Alex Jones has just used here is the argument from complexity. The more well-known version of his argument is a tornado passing through a junkyard isn't going to produce a fully functioning Boeing 747. And what it is based on is this idea that evolution is strictly randomness. But this is a common misinterpretation of the theory. Yes, the mutations are random, but the selection process is not. Natural selection or sexual selection chooses traits that are deleterious to die out, and traits that are neutral or advantageous to stay within the population. Over a long time, billions of years, Alex Jones, this can produce some incredibly intricate and complex quote-unquote designs.
A human cell is 1,000,000 times or more, according to the scientist I've read, complex than a fine Swiss watch.
However, cells have had billions of years to evolve, and single-celled organisms evolve far faster than whole organisms. They are more prone to mutation. So it's not surprising that they're incredibly complex. They had a long time to be so. But we know cells evolve because we're able to examine their DNA. For example, the mitochondria has been shown to be originally a separate organelle from the cell that over time formed a symbiotic relationship with the cell until they became codependent. And we know this because a mitochondria has its own DNA separate from the rest of the cell. Now, did any of the geneticists who talk about species popping up overnight ever tell that to you? Probably not.
And they've tried in laboratories to make with simple building blocks of life, with simple amino acids. They've tried to make life. They can't do it.
What he's talking about here is the Urey-Miller experiment. And since then, there has been other experiments based on it using more up-to-date knowledge about earlier conditions. And while it hasn't popped out a fully functioning, completely complex human cell, as I would imagine Alex Jones believed it should have, it did produce an abundance of the initial amino acids and proteins that are essential to the formation of life. Now, these experiments have a far smaller size or area to take place in, and for far shorter of a time. The initial Yuri Miller experiment went on for like a week. So based on that alone, it's pretty ignorant and close-minded to say that the whole idea of biogenesis is completely debunked because this incredibly minute sample size of what was going on in early Earth conditions didn't produce life. And it's also worth pointing out that biogenesis, what the Miller-Urey experiment was about, is a different subject than evolution. Evolution concerns itself with life once it is there, once it exists, how it changes, how the environment affects it. It doesn't give a rat's ass about how life started. It could have been natural processes, it could have been a deity, could have been aliens. That's irrelevant to the theory of evolution, and any evolutionist, as Alex Jones might call them, or globalist, I guess he would call them, would tell you that.
Okay? And there is just unbelievable design. And now with the electron microscopes, they're finding what can only be called microplasms, smaller bacteria, smaller viruses living in the viruses, in the bacteria. They zoom in more. They find little creatures living inside those creatures. They zoom in more. They find creatures living inside those creatures. They zoom even more. They find creatures living inside those creatures. They zoom in even more. Inside the cell. You zoom into a cell and you find other creatures living there. You zoom in further. You find more creatures. They have bacterium that can live in radiation. They have bacterium that can live in total zero. What is it? 270 something below zero Celsius. Absolute zero. I mean, it just goes on and on and on.
It's worth pointing out that extremophiles, which is what Alex Jones was talking about with bacteria that can survive in radiation and absolute zero, are now believed to be the earliest life forms on Earth. So pretty far from complex, or as complex as he's trying to make it out to be. It's essentially the starting organism as far as modern science is concerned.
We're living on a planet, a gorgeous planet, hurtling through space, orbiting a sun. We have no idea what's really going on.
We actually have a very good idea of what's going on. Again, didn't you say you accept science?
So big. It's so amazing. But instead, people only care about their fantasy football instead of trying to learn the mysteries and secrets of the universe.
At the moment, creationism is on the decline among the United States population, and that's especially true among college-educated populations. While science may not be the most widespread, leisurely activity that the entire populace takes part in, there is a far greater interest in it due to people like Stephen Hawking and Neil deGrasse Tyson and Carl Sagan for older generations and Richard Dawkins. A far greater appreciation of it and understanding of it than I think you're giving credit for. Now, despite what you've said, we've established quite well you don't understand or accept the validity of scientific theories. You like to look at complex things, not understand the basic foundation of all modern biology that explains why it's complex, and declare it must be the work of an intelligent designer. But I'm going to defend the rest of the population just for a moment here and say they're a little bit smarter and more interested in the world around them than you are. because they're more likely to actually examine the world around them and not then lump in all these silly, absurd fantasies about global elites and eugenics and transhumanist world conquerors and aliens and UN cults into it all. Yeah, there's still work to be done, and yeah, a lot of the population is kicking and screaming and clawing at the floor as society has to drag them toward progress. And yeah, we also elected the likes of Trump and Republicans into higher offices who vehemently deny scientific truths. Alright, this really isn't helping my case, but the point is, I think the population is more interested in science and has been for a while. A large part due to actual scientists. People like Richard Dawkins, like Carl Sagan, like Stephen Hawking, writing books about their work, making it accessible for the general population. You, on the other hand, would just spew out this absolute nonsense, poisoning the well of public discourse with your complete fucking lack of understanding, either deliberate lies or sheer fucking ignorance presented as truth, and then claim that everyone else is sheeple because they don't think exactly like you. And that's despite your pandering, your lies about wanting people to think for themselves. Because if you did, you wouldn't even have this retarded show. You wouldn't have these stupid fucking little segments at the end of your videos complaining about the population being ignorant. Maybe they're not ignorant. Maybe they just know more than you and know that what you're talking about is complete fucking bullshit.
And I'll tell you where you start finding out those secrets. It's in the ancient text, like the Bible.
Don't be reading any modern day works on science and evolution and biology. Turn to ancient text. Even though Alex Jones likes to claim that ancient text isn't even reliable, it couldn't even get across a length of time. A day is evidently not a day. What else is not what it is presented in that book? That's sort of where the video ends. Now, like I said before, it's harder to find these nutty videos by him, and especially about transhumanism. But I do hope you were able to enjoy this episode, that I gave you something to think about and otherwise entertained you. Take care.